Welcome to another Difference Makers broadcast. I'm here with one of my long-term friends of my life, Tim Walden. He and his wife Beverly have been just so close to us and such a support here at Bethel. And our focus today is going to really be on being a difference maker and what it's about. But I love to bring Christian entrepreneurs and business folks that are just doing it right with excellence and success. And I want to have Tim share some of the things he's doing out here in the business world, and also we'll be getting into how we make a difference in the kingdom of God as being entrepreneurs. Let me give you a little background with Tim. We've known each other, my goodness, for 24 years.
Yeah, great years.
They were one of the original families. We were about 3 months old when we planted a church over 23 years ago. And Tim and Bev, he is an amazing. Well, we're going to get into what he does, because if I talk about it, I'll steal it. Let me read a little bit of his bio. Tim and Beverly took over Walden's Photography in Lexington, Kentucky from his father in 1980, who was a very successful photographer, one of the tops in the state and nation, really. And they took it a different direction into what they felt for it, building a trademark on relationship. And man, you've done my family for years. The Black and Whites, they're amazing. And I'm sure he'll get into that as well. They're known worldwide. They travel and teach in organizations including Kodak and Professional Photographers of America, which he's been a president of multiple times. And this is like the top 30 photographers, isn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, 30,000 now across the world.
30,000 across the world, and then he's been on the board of that through
the presidency, and
all
it's a
that
great
good
organization.
Stuff. Another great thing, and I'm so excited. A few years ago, Tim kicked off his coaching deal, and it's amazing on branding and other things. And without further ado, let my good friend step in and tell them a little more about yourself, Tim.
Well, Pastor, thank you so much. You know how much we love you and Steph and the people at Bethel. You guys are just an amazing family. You live and walk the talk, and we appreciate the opportunity. And as Pastor said, I'm a photographer. Is one of the things I do. I coach and teach an awful lot. And I know many years ago when I took over the business from my father, he retired, and we were struggling. My father was amazing, Pastor, had everything except business.
Yeah.
Because
great artist, great
everything except business. And I say that with love. I love my father. I miss him a lot. But I say that because he was in a wheelchair, handicapped from his armpits down due to an accident. And he couldn't afford to make money. That sounds weird. But he was with the government. He would have lost his disability. So when I took over Walden's Photography, we were on the fast track to bankruptcy. And it was like, during all that process, I became a Christian and was just seeking wisdom and like, what am I going to do? And I remember thinking, well, if I'm going to go out of business, I want to go out of business doing something I love. Yeah. And at the time, I know this doesn't sound real spiritual, but God gave me an idea. I think because we wanted to be givers. We were giving. We were putting in practice the things God was teaching us, and He gave us an idea. And in 3 years, I turned our business around. I remember when it was a God-inspired idea, because and again, I don't mean this in the wrong way, but I'm not that smart that I could come up with that short on my own. And God gave us an idea of a style of art, and it turned our business around. After 3 years, we began to see changes, and after 3 years, I got a call from my accountant, and I thought it was an obscene phone call because he used a word I'd never heard. He said, "You're making a profit." I almost hung up on him. I'm like, "Who is this? I'm not talking to you anymore."
Want me to buy something?
He said, "I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it." And then over the years, it's been a style of photography that we've taught that's been created and used by artists across the world. Yeah. And then I think for me, Pastor, I had to go back and say, not only I know where the source is, but I still have to be excellent at what I do.
Yes.
And I'm like, teach me how to be excellent in my brand, in the way I treat people. Because Pastor, I think Christians, we shouldn't be the bottom of the pack. And I don't even think we should be in the middle of the pack.
No, I agree.
We don't need to be above the pack.
Well, I still a line from Tim for over 20 years ago, I heard he used this line, and it is Christians have an unfair advantage in the workplace or in business because we have the King with us. If we'll apply the trade, the work, the effort, but we've got the influence of the kingdom and revelation as well, and we do have an unfair advantage if we use it, don't we?
If we use that mind of Christ, and if we, if we make him our lead partner. Which I think we have to do. We still step forward and do the right things, and then that anointing is like a multiplication. It is an unfair advantage, as we say, but we just use it. We use it properly, and we use it consistently. We seek it, and when we do that, God comes through in just amazing ways, and we've seen that. We saw a failing business turn around in 3 years. And when I say 3 years, I mean it was profitable in 3 years. It started turning around almost instantly. Wow! And it was an idea, and so many of God's ideas, to be honest with you, sometimes when you look back, they're so simple, but who'd have thought of it, right? I mean, it's like
that's that unfair advantage. You did all the work, and then God gives you boom, one little thought,
one idea, and then that idea all of a sudden is just like, wow. That's amazing, and you don't always know, but you know when it's that source that it's something that God's going to use. You just have to step out and do it. So we started this style of photography, and within 3 years our business changed, and then we got on the teaching circuit. We started studying branding, and I've gotten a passion to teach branding. I'm coaching a lot of people on building a strong brand.
Well, full disclosure, Tim has been a long time, one of my best friends, my top 3 friends in the world, but he's also a great confidant of mine. I know I can share anything with Tim and he's one of those guys, if I need some wisdom or advice, I don't hesitate if I need to talk to Tim because he's so brilliant. He's really studied wisdom his whole life and has such an understanding of Proverbs and Psalms and other things. And he's a great teacher, biblical teacher as well. I mean, you get him on faith or finances or any of that stuff, he crushes it. But also, years ago, we used to have a TV ministry here at Bethel. We were on NBC, PAX.
I remember
one of the Daystar Network. Mm-hmm. And Tim did it as a volunteer and built this huge team for us. And we were on I don't know how many times a week. And we were crushed it for 6 or 7 years until we decided to come off with the economy crash and all that. But his background from a biblical sense, wisdom and all that, but also just from not just branding and marketing, but every aspect of a business. When I think of Tim Walden, I think of, two words, creativity, excellence, 3, and integrity. And your brand, he's kind of modest. I mean, this group that he's been the president of and all that, I mean, they are it in the world of photography. And he's the one that taught me they're not pictures, they're not photographs, they're portraits. He only does portraits. Yeah, that's right. And they've done presidents, they've done everything. And so he'll be a little modest here. So I wanted to just throw that in as he starts talking about branding.
Well, you're kind. And what was built here was on the back of so many amazing people that you have here at Bethel, and that was by our side, as a team, just incredible. So, and I think it's proven in the lives that have been changed and the things that are happening, at Bethel right now. It's just amazing. And so, I'm honored for that.
And you've had a big part of it. You've had a big part of it.
But thank you. Yeah. So for me. Now, my passion is I want to help other people succeed. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you build a strong brand? What are the elements of a strong brand? And, I think we talk about wisdom, Pastor, and one of the things I tell folks when I'm working and coaching with them is sometimes finding that wisdom has changed a little bit. Wisdom used to be in knowing what to do. Mm-hmm. I think in today's environment, wisdom is in knowing what not to do.
Ooh, that's good.
Because I think...
Man, there's so many options.
Yeah, there's so many options.
Oh, just Google it, YouTube it, check it out. Yeah. You could be going 40 different directions and 39 of them wrong,
Absolutely. And I think, Pastor, we have to give up some really good ideas, and we have to walk away from some really good things for the greater causes because they could become distractions. And used to, I think what would happen is we'd say, well, isn't that a good idea? Wouldn't that be nice? Shouldn't I do that in my church, in my business, in my studio? Well, yeah, we ought to do that. We ought to do that. And then we dilute our brand. And then we can't be the master of everything. That's right. And so we become good at a lot of things, but we don't become excellent at the things that are most important. And one of the keys, I have on a sheet of paper in front of me, like 5 keys to a successful brand. The first one is clarity. Yeah. What do you do?
That's good.
I mean, people need to know who you are. And I think to be excellent, you have to let a lot of good things go. Define who you are. Then you can begin to message it. You can begin to make a difference in people's lives, and you can become excellent at doing it.
That's good.
Because you've honed down like from a funnel, from the top to that bottom stream, and you'll notice a lot of great people. You know what they do.
Yeah.
You know who they are, and they do it better than anyone else.
So good. And clarity also gives you that focus that when you do, there was a great book many years ago we used to read and do a lot around here, and it's called Good is the Enemy of Great, From Good to Great.
Yes.
And it fits that. And when I think of clarity, which that's one of our 3 key words here at Bethel, and that is, it also helps you when you do have a great idea, you're going to become first or early on in the process. And when you're the first of any brand, you're going to win all the way through if you just do it with excellence, aren't you?
That's absolutely true, Pastor. And I think for when God inspired an idea for us and we began to take ownership of it and let the other things fall away, you're not going to be successful. This sounds really strange, but I believe it, and I've seen it from the bottom of my heart. I know how true this is. You're not going to be successful till you drive people away from you and drive people to you. One of the things that businesses do wrong is they try to be everything to everybody.
And then you're nothing to no one.
Yeah, then you dilute who you are. And what happens is, I think for me in the business we're in the art business, portraiture and art. Thank you for not using that other word.
Yeah, I know. He wanted to say that word. He wanted to say that word.
That's
Another
right.
word.
We don't use that word. Yeah, but for me, if we don't build that clarity where people see the difference, because I think one of the things I love to say, if you want to be successful, I can tell you how in 2 words, but easy to say, hard to do. That's create gaps. Gaps between you and the masses. What makes you different? Wow. And quit worrying about who likes it.
It's so good.
Worry about who identifies it.
That's right.
And when they identify it, the people that love it, they'll drive for hours. They'll invest in something they love.
You have people fly you all over the country
to
do.
Yeah, and it's amazing because right next door you might have somebody that goes, I wouldn't want that. Right. But somebody else saying, I don't see anything else like that. Right. And that's where that clarity plays in. It's like create those gaps between you and everyone else. Quit worrying about, well, somebody else does this better than me. Somebody else does this better than me. And in doing that, with the deadly thing that happens in business is when you do that, people shop on 2 things that are devastating, and that's price and location.
That's it, man.
Because it's like, oh, well, you're around the corner, you're cheap, I'm going to run over there. Is that the people you want? To be successful in business, you have to draw the right people, and you define what the right people are.
Yeah.
It's
like you can discover your tribe, or even better, you create your tribe.
Absolutely.
And that's what's amazing. When you get that tribe, and that tribe you're in your tribe because they love your brand.
Yeah, and brand being the key is like they identify it. And until they identify it, they can't love it. They start choosing it for all the wrong reasons. This has got little to do with photography. It has to do with whatever your business
in life and business. For
yeah,
sure.
I mean, I remember traveling somewhere. We were teaching, and we went to this restaurant. It was snowing. We couldn't get out anywhere. We walked across the street, and they had this menu. It was like an encyclopedia.
Oh no, I get discouraged when I see that. I can't make my mind up now.
We specialize in Greek, Italian,
exactly.
Mexican.
Population of the city is 1,000.
How many of you think we got? How many of you think we got a good meal there? We didn't. It's because it's like you can't specialize in those things. It's just this layer of confusion. So I think, and clarity gives you a way to message to your clients or to the right people. You begin to message who you are because now you've honed it in and taken it down. And that's part of your brand is you got to carve away all that peripheral and get down to that. And I think that's, the first key to a great brand.
So good.
Yeah.
And then what would be the next one, Tim?
Well, I think the next one is technical excellence and being excellent at what you do. And, the word says, you see a man skilled, he will stand before kings and not obscure men. Well, it's not just someone skilled, but you have to also see them.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's
that's good. So branding brings you into
it's not just, you could be skilled sitting at home and nobody knows. I mean, there's a lot more to, I think, that verse than we know as I've studied it. But the thing about technical excellence as an artist, that I tell other artists I teach is they think that if they're technically excellent at what they do, that will form their success. That's not true. What technical excellence does for an artist and a photographer, and you can plug in whatever it is that you folks do, is it makes the photography invisible, and it allows the purpose, the story, the message to rise to the top. So if you're technically excellent, then everything that you're technically doing becomes invisible.
Yeah, that's good.
And then the purpose of what you do, which is the third thing I have on my list here, the purpose of what you do begins to rise to the top. So as I create art, I don't, it's just being technically excellent. To be honest with you, Pastor, I think people have a right to expect that. I can't go around celebrating that I know what an exposure is and I know what lighting is because I am telling people's stories, and that's the purpose. How does it affect them?
You know, like when you talked about the technical skill, I think about David, right? I mean, David, he was building his skill, not just to be a king someday, but he killed the lion and the bear of his bare hands, blah, blah, blah. But what most people don't get is David, because of his skill, was brought before the king to play, right, his instrument. Because he was so gifted. And what hit me when you said that, skill will bring you in front of a king, right? Or in front of a president of a company or owner of a company. Skill will bring you in front of the king, but branding will take you to the masses.
Absolutely.
Isn't that good?
Absolutely. I love that,
because the skill
so
is
true.
You have to have the skill because you can brand yourself and people eventually find out you're a fraud. But when you have the skill and the branding, you know, then that takes you to the masses.
Well, and there's so much more to it. It's like slices of a pie. You know, you have to have all those pieces to have the complete brand intact. And so I think one of the things that I see across the board, I see it in all kinds of industry. I've dealt with a lot of people in web work and all that. And the unfortunate thing is the technically excellent people a lot of times will
You taught
will
me
start
this.
the
I'll tell them.
business.
You told me this. Please, Pastor, don't choose the technical person to head the creative team
right.
up. Okay,
That's right.
Tim, I got that. It
You
never
remember
worked.
that, don't
Oh,
you?
yeah, you branded me with that.
It's like, okay, who's technically good? Okay, you do what that person tells
Exactly.
you to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the creative side, that understanding of the message, the purpose, all of those things is got to happen. And when you get people that are technically excellent at whatever it is, and let's say photography, they think, oh, I'm a good photographer because everything's sharp and it's well exposed and it's lit, but it can be visually just inept. It can be awful and to be technically right. It's the purpose, which is the third thing, and the purpose is the why to what you do.
That's good.
And so I ask people when I'm coaching people in my industry, I say, what does your art do for them? Answer the question is, why should I do this? How does it make my life better? And what do I miss if I don't do it? Where do I fall short? And that's where you want to begin to market, because one of the things we talk about in marketing is market the result of your art. Don't market your art. Don't market the process. It'd be like a Jaguar dealer marketing the spark plugs and the air filters.
It's so good.
No, it's like, how do you feel when you sit in that vehicle and you know, and the fulfillment of that experience. And so the purpose is the why. And that I think that's the heart of your brand.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the why, if you don't know how it serves and benefits others, if there's not that reciprocal in your business of, I'm here to do this for you, I know I'm going to reap a reward, but I'm going to reap it not on your back, but I'm going to reap it beside you.
It's good.
As you become successful at what you do. Purpose that's the heartbeat. If these 5 things were the body of a brand, and I don't care what you do, if you think because you're technically excellent at it that you've got a successful brand, you only got a piece of it. I would venture to say you're wrong. You're missing the mark. I have a right to expect you to be technically excellent.
Yes.
But I don't find that as the fulfillment.
That's the base, right?
That's right. That's the platform that makes it invisible.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that we have the purpose.
Well, and it's like the old story or adage, if the purpose of your life is to paint the side of a huge building and you have a ladder and you put it up there, right? well, that's all good. You can be painting a building, doing it great. But if your ladder's leaned against the wrong building, you missed your whole purpose. And I think technical people a lot of time will be great, and we thank God for great technical people. But if they don't have the why or the purpose right, it's not going anywhere.
That's right.
You know, just think of, you know, you told the story too of Kodak years ago, how, you know, they owned the digital properties and they sold them because they wanted to keep making film, right? They wanted to keep making selling the paper.
Sometimes you don't know what you have until it's gone. Yeah, but so true. And I don't want to downplay technical excellence.
They were technically ahead of the industry, decades ahead. And they sell the digital platform, and other people do it, so they could make printing paper. I mean, and stuff and film. Isn't that crazy?
And sometimes, you know, that's another reason why we have an unfair advantage with the mind of Christ, is because he can show us these things, you know, and I think that's important. But again, I don't want anybody to think being technically excellent is unimportant. It is a platform you build the other things on, but it is not the all in all. Right. And so we just need to keep all this in balance.
So good.
And then I think the other thing, since we're on track here on this, if you don't mind, the fourth thing that we share is, and we talk about building a strong brand, is your brand investment worthy? And investment worthy means that whatever that product is, or whatever it is, whether it's a physical product or a service or whatever it is, are you putting it and packaging it in such a way that you're creating amazing experience? That you're creating, if it's a physical product, excitement. One of the things that Beverly talks about when she teaches with me a lot, she talks about every business should have a level of surprise and delight. What is your surprise and delight? Like you just want that little extra magic.
So good.
And so for artists, photographers, I know we're print artists because that's part of being investment worthy. It's not a pick on a stick.
And if you don't see it as being an artist, then you're very technical, probably.
That's right. That's right.
It's tough to find the technical and the artist all in one, you know.
Yeah, but but just like you stand on two legs, that's two parts of it. So whatever your business is, are you producing that product? Are you producing that experience? Is it investment worthy? A lot of that goes to service too. Just over the top service. You know, Pastor, it's just disappointing. So many things just you feel like you're bothering people when you go to their business, or they start telling you, you know, I go somewhere to get something done, and they start talking to me in their language. I don't want to hear their language. That's why I'm choosing now. I'm like, I don't want to hear their electrical language if they're electricians. I don't want to hear those things. I want to know, how are you going to solve my problem, and how are you going to take this off of my. And
you and Beverly have been genius at this. I know 18, 20 years ago, I was blown away by your process. I mean, you had a whole process, not only technically great, artistically great, to get these amazing, you know, to make these amazing portraits, right? And then you had a whole sales team that knew how to bring that delight and bring that before the people, and it wasn't cheap. You were the most. I'm the most expensive, maybe in the country, or at least in this region or area. But you built a brand to say, "Hey, this is special. This is the best." But you had an amazing follow-up process, and then even getting the repeat. Your repeat business has been crazy.
Oh, the golden R's, return and referral, we call them. Those are the golden R's. But yeah, you know, I think it's very important that, you know, the fulfillment of the art is just part of it. But when we know you're coming, that's, you know, we stage things. So it, like every business, you know, the fragrance that's in the room, the personal letters that are written, all those things. And I'm not trying to blow our horn. I'm trying to encourage people to say, you need to treasure the people that invest money with you. And it's not about how much something costs. It's about the value of it. I mean, value is, it's not what it costs, but it's what it's worth. And I think when people know value, and if you provide that value and you create those gaps, that's important.
And value to one man is a different value than others. So, well, if you're going to buy a home, well, that home, they can't get that out of that house. Well, they get this crazy number out of that house. Why? The market will determine the value. And when you set it up for success, and you do it with technical excellency and clarity and focus, and you have your brand, and you're doing it through stories and relationship, all of a sudden the value, you know, so many people, the process is more than just making it, the whole experience is a process, isn't it?
Absolutely. And all these things need to be thought out. One of the books we read early on is called The E-Myth.
Oh, yeah. You
Remember
got me.
that? Yeah.
You had me read that. Yeah.
And I think
Were you working on the
Revisited
business or in the business, you know?
That is like the center of the spoked wheel for us, because it talks about creating experience. And I firmly believe first experiences are important, but I think they're not the most important.
Right.
I think when someone comes through your business, whatever your business is, whatever it is you do, and if you do it right, you basically just imagine in your mind, you handed them a yardstick. And that yardstick says, measure me every single time you walk through this door based on this. We know this by other businesses we go to, hotels, restaurants. You know, somebody pats you on the back, they're there, they fill up the water, they have hot bread. You know, it's like, man, this is a great experience.
Yeah.
You go back and maybe the bread's not there. Maybe you're a little slower getting there. And then what happens is you're measuring it by that first yardstick. So all of your experiences need to be calculated, and it's important that you don't overdo it if you can't repeat it.
Right.
And so we look and say, what can we do and what can we do consistently? And when we make changes in our business, we make changes that are improvements. Hopefully, it's not to say we don't screw up occasionally, but I don't talk about that.
Right.
But it's happened, but you learn from it and you move on.
Yeah. You don't fail, you fall forward. Yeah.
Right. And then I think the final thing we have on my list is consistency.
Yeah.
And you can't be consistent until the clarity is in place, and all of those things cause you to be consistent. Until you carve down and create gaps, let things go by the wayside for the greater cause, it's impossible to be consistent.
You know, as we look into this, as I know we're winding down on time on this one, but I want to do a part 2 if Tim would be generous enough to stick around a little while, because he's talked about the brand, the clarity, how to build a business and all that. But one of the things that you do, and you've done it, you're so ahead of the game, is your whole coaching business.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're only as good as our mentors. You know, if we don't have, you know, the old saying of, you know, I can tell what kind of character you have by the 5 people you hang out with. Well, you can also tell what your income is by the 5 people you hang out with. You can also find out your success level by the 5 people you hang out with most. And you and I are so big on, we have to have mentors, we have to have coaches. Now, someone might be a mentor in business, but not in life, or they might be a mentor in life and not in business. Yeah. You gotta, I'm big on whatever I need coached up on, I need to get coached up on. Right. And I do some coaching as well, and I love it, but I receive coaching, because if we're not doing that, we're not growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. So what I like to do is we wrap up here the next moment or so is come back in and do part 2 of this podcast,
I'd love to.
A part 2 podcast, and really get into the dynamics of some of the things you offer and you do, because he just kind of goes beyond it. But, you know, guys, it doesn't matter if you want to talk about lighting, if you want to talk about the marketing aspect, if you want to talk about the technical aspect, if you want to talk about the creative and the story branding, you have a life of experience that few people have. And that's what coaching is so beautiful about, you know, because you could take someone's successful person's biography and read it, and you're 1 life or 2 lifetimes ahead. And I think one of the greatest things, I mean, social media has its positives and its negatives. And, you know, we've been using Zoom for 7-8 years. It's comical now. Everybody, Zoom. I'm like, we've been doing leadership through Zoom for 5 years, you know, with our just in-house. Yeah, I should have done that. But one of the great things that these types of mediums have brought is the opportunity to coach people around the world. Right. You know, you can be in another nation being coached up on your industry or whatever it is. So as we wrap up here the next couple of moments, Tim, what would you like to say as we get ready to do part 2 here in a moment?
Well, I think, you know, the word talks about in all labor there's profit. And I know that we need to be hard workers, but it also talks about promotion. And that's where it talks about, do you see a man skilled? And I think as Christian business people, we need to be excellent at what we do all the way through. And I think, you know, for me, that excellency starts with partnership. And a lot of people might think of partnership with God. Yeah, but you still have a role. You need that lead partner. And I think that's where everything begins, because we can take all of the conversation, but if we don't have that part in place, that's the core. That's That's the
Well, he
the
said,
center.
he gives us the ability to build wealth.
Right.
What? To establish his covenant in the earth.
Right.
Well,
Right.
as a believer, we're in covenant with him.
Right.
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 And so we are a partner with him. Yeah, he's the number one partner, the
Right.
Father, but we're part of his kingdom and his kingdom business, his kingdom
Yes.
ministry. And it's up to us to be a good partner. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And this is, I planted, Apollos water, but God brought the increase. I think that's the formula. The horse is prepared for that battle. God brings the victory. So we have that role. And I want to encourage anybody out there to say, I want to do my role. And then that multiplication, that anointing is going to give that exponential curve and take me to new levels. But we have to, as you say, set our heart, our mind, and our hand to it.
And you can, and as we do that, and there's so many things where it's a spiritual aspect or whatever, Tim is so gifted. And so here in a moment, we're going to go on and record part 2 for you. You got to come back and check it out, because I really want him to dive into coaching. I want him to really just begin to lay out some of these foundational pieces, because coaching is life changing. I have my kids, as soon as I've had them in coaching. I demand them to be coached, and it's not free. Why? Because that's the way you accelerate everything you're doing and do it at another level. So we're getting ready to do another one here in a few moments, and I want you to join us with part 2 and to learn how to make a difference for the kingdom of God. You know why? Because he called us to be difference makers, making a difference every day in every way. So let's get together for part 2. See you soon.